What's going on there, folks? Good evening. The Earthmaster here on the live stream with an update video on this beautiful Tuesday evening. June 28, 2022 is the date. About 8:07 p.m. California time. Latest quake shows a 1.2 earthquake here. Looks like in the area right around the Cobb Mountain region. Last in Volcanic field. The latest quake on the Earthquake 3D globe. Of course, many of you know I have gone up to the Mount Shasta Volcano here in Northern California. Kind of investigating what's going on here with this activity we're seeing across these alert wildfire web cameras. I'm going to put this into motion here. This is the last 6 hours. I want you to notice here in these little canyons, right? We see stuff blowing around, stuff coming up. Well, I got an answer. It took a 2.5 hour drive, almost 3 hour drive here to get to where I was at on the north side of the Mount Shasta area. I could not drive back there, obviously, but there's a few trails that do go pretty close in the vicinity of these canyons. So notice up here, folks, above this area, we're seeing quite a bit of snow, glacier melt occurring. It's pretty warm up there. It was about 89 degrees. I heard on top of the mountain that it's, at least on one of those points up there, it's above 40. So, of course, you're going to get some major snow melt. So, while I was up there, following my last live stream, I came across a gentleman, and he likes to be called Beal, and he is a forest geologist who works for the USDA and the Forest Service, so he knows all about this. In fact, he was informed by quite a few folks there before him, prior to his position, about what goes on up here or during this type of event. So, what we are seeing are basically rock falls. Okay, I want to show you guys real quick. I'm going to bring up an image here. I'm going to post a video also after the after this update video. Let me see if I can bring up this image right here. So here's one image of that area. Okay, so this is directly looking into that canyon, right? You guys see that canyon right? Let me put this into motion again. See right here? So basically, I'm looking. This here is the camera direction, looking right there. I was a little bit more west here, so I had a good shot of this canyon. And so what we're seeing right here, let me bring this up again, right smack dab into that canyon with my zoom camera right there. Look at that. Quite a bit of rockfall. That is some very loose ash and soot. Where I was at, standing down there on the northern flank, quite a few miles, not quite a few miles, probably about 5 miles from the volcano. It's very ashy. In fact, my tripod sunk when I was going live earlier into the ash. It's crazy how loose and very soft the sediment and the dirt is up here. So that's also what we're seeing here in this canyon. With the snow melt, the runoff, we're looking at some rock falls. In fact, this geologist here, Beal, I appreciate the guy 100%. We chatted probably for a good 30 minutes or so, and I probably gained another subscriber here on the channel, but I appreciate his input. He's going to provide me here with a link and an article, a pretty lengthy page, or a pretty lengthy article regarding this activity that we see here. And, you know, at first when I seen this showing up on the alert wildfire cameras, I thought, man, what's going on in that canyon? We didn't have a specific camera pointed directly into this canyon where I was at. So it kind of looks like something's coming up, right? Something is coming up out of that canyon, and it could be steam, it could be an ash vent, but I'm 100% certain now that that is not steam and it's not an ash vent. Let me show you guys up a little bit closer here. This is even a little bit closer shot, and you guys can see this is directly where the rock falls are taking place there in that canyon. I didn't catch any directly on camera. You got to be at a certain angle to be able to see the dust rising in the air. But look at all those loose rocks there, and look at all the kind of like the landslide up there by the snow melt. All that's coming down into that loose ash and soot, and it's creating dust up there like you wouldn't believe. When I was just walking around where I was parked at the northern end of the volcano there, off the road, off Highway 97. My footprints, it's like I'm walking on the moon. It's that loose, that type of soil, that type of dirt and sediment that's just thick. And any kind of stirring up of that sediment there will create this cloud of dust. And man, let me tell you, that's exactly what we're looking at, folks. And it's a good relief, because I don't want this thing to blow. The volcano is right next to quite a few communities up there, including the community of Weed, Mount Shasta City, a couple other smaller communities out there. The geologist said obviously this volcano is active, right? It's a threat. But what we're seeing here on these cameras, and let me put them in again, we've been watching them for a couple days. I know quite a few folks have been wondering about it. And that's why I took the 2.5-3 hour drive to get the facts on this, folks. See that? These are some steep, super steep canyons. The level of angle right here is almost pointed up and down. That's how steep this northern flank here of the volcano is. You got the glaciers above it. They're melting. They're disturbing the soil for one. You got some runoff into this canyon. And of course, everything's, for the most part, dry up there, except for directly where the snow melt is running off. But then you get this ash and soot. That's the best I could describe it. It's just soot. it's horrible. I couldn't imagine driving through one of these roads up here. I took my Tahoe on just off Highway 97 a little bit, so I could get some better angles. And that's when I seen the forest geologist, and man, super nice guy, like I said. And we had a pretty lengthy conversation about all of this, and I do want to provide it to you guys as soon as he sends me the link. But I do want you guys to check out the video I posted. I'm going to post another one here after my update, after the earthquake video update, and kind of explains a little bit more about what we're seeing and a closer video view of this area. Yeah, I showed you guys some pictures right there. But the video I'm going to post up, I'll actually include it as a link towards the end of this video, so you guys can watch it next. But all that rockfall, all that soot and dust coming down, 100%. So what's going on with well, first I want to bring up an article here that was put out. We'll check out the seismograph stations here in a little bit too, and I think I have an idea of what it is. An article put out here in Redding, California, talking about Mount Shasta here. Back in 2020, I remember this, a little small series of earthquakes over a 2-week period rattled the southwestern flank of Mount Shasta last December, but this was back in 2020, remember? Such events can be a precursor to a volcano rumbling to life. That's very possible, but we do know, right? We do know from looking at seismographs all across various volcanoes, Yellowstone, Mount St. Helens. We've seen them at Mount Lassen as well. A lot of volcanoes have these little microquake swarms, and sometimes they're very common. If we're seeing a big event such as quite a few 2s or 3s kicking up, along with GPS showing that there's elevated uplift or deflation, inflation, that's an obvious sign of some lava movement underneath. But we haven't seen that here at Mount Shasta, but it is definitely a very high threat. Now, I know quite a few of you folks mentioned on the one of my posts here that I posted today that the USGS put out an alert that Mount Shasta is going to erupt. Well, eventually one day it will erupt, but I think the article that you guys are looking at is a fake, false article put out by a troll. I don't know who it is, but sometimes even just like seeing this ash and dust rise up in the air from rock falls, they will take advantage of that just to do a little bit of fear mongering. But this article was put out back in 2020. Mount Shasta is now ranked 5th out of a list of 18 volcanoes in the country that pose a very high threat. And a very high threat, the reason for that is because the communities that the volcano is next to. Not because specifically of the activity that's ongoing right now, or lack of activity, but because of the community that it lives by, that is near. The youngest eruption that we can confirm happened was about 3,000 years ago. That's confirmation, said Dr. Jessica Ball with the California Volcano Observatory based in the Menlo Park area. It looks like on average Mount Shasta erupts every 600 to 8,000 years. But that's just an average, you know. Then again, earthquakes don't care about averages, neither do volcanoes. It looks like Mount Shasta, obviously a very young volcano in geologic terms. It has molten magma in its plumbing system. It's literally hot inside. We get it. But is it ready to blow? I'm not so sure about that right now. Looking at the seismographs, let's go ahead and go over to the Mount Shasta seismograph station here real quick through the volcanoes website on the USGS site. And one thing I've said, folks, and I'll say it again, and I told it to this geologist. He knows about my YouTube channel. I told him that we're about facts. I drove up here today to find out what's going on at Mount Shasta. And I found out what's going on. I could have come back and said, man, I smell sulfur in the air. There's steam rising up out of the ground. Yeah, folks, you know, and get a million views and put a horrible picture on the thumbnail. But I'm not about that. This channel has always been about providing facts. And if I have to drive, I've driven 12 hours before for this channel. I've driven even further than that to find out facts in regards to whether it's earthquake activity, volcanic activity. That's what this channel is all about, folks. Not fear-mongering, but facts. So this seismograph station over here, still offline. This is kind of where all the activity is kind of kicking up there from the melting of the glacier. This one still has some weird, kind of like weird events, right? And I tried to explain that to the geologist, and he wasn't for sure exactly what that is. But I'm uncertain too as well. It could be maybe some hydrothermal stuff going on underneath the ground, but I don't believe it's associated. I firmly believe it's not associated with the activity that we're seeing there with the dust and the soot rising up out of the ground. This activity, let's see if we can get, I wish one of these other ones was working, because if that was the case, if we could see from one of these other seismograph stations the same thing popping up, then we would know that it's regional and that it's legit. But I don't know that this is just not interference from who knows what. Maybe a camper set up nearby running a generator every once in a while. I don't know. But I know down here it's not showing up on these seismograph stations at all. This is showing some weird activity. I'm not for certain what that stuff is. So, yeah, that is it, folks. That is the facts. I want you guys to watch the video, though, okay? And you'll see what I'm talking about. A direct video view right there into the canyon where the rock falls are taking place. I showed you a couple still shots. I want you guys to watch the video after this update video, okay? And I appreciate the folks that did a couple donations on there. That helps. Gas is super expensive. I spent a couple $100 driving up there today, but I wanted to provide you guys with factual information, not fear-mongering, and a bird's eye view. Yes, these cameras are pretty awesome, and they're really beneficial into spotting smoke, dust, dirt. But man, when you have a direct view here from the base of the mountain, the base of the volcano, you get a better understanding of what's going on here. And it's, you know, as much as I think it'd be cool to say, yes, this is volcanic and steam taking place here, or ash emissions, is not. It's not, folks. One of these days it will be. And then I'll be driving back up there. That's for sure. I'm not scared of volcanoes. I'm not scared of weather. I already got hit by a tornado this year. It doesn't scare me. That's what I'm here on this planet to do. All right, guys, let's move on with earthquake activity. Hopefully I didn't dull some of your guys' expectations of coming back with she's gonna blow. But yeah, like I said, I would love to see it active. Unfortunately, it's around a high community, Weed, Mount Shasta City, other houses out there. It's a beautiful area, but yeah, we don't need that thing blowing right now. But when it does, if I'm still alive, you bet I will be up there. All right, guys, let's continue on with the update video. Again, don't forget at the end of this video to click the up next video, and that will be the one that's going to be provided here. All right, guys, earthquake activity right around Taiwan. Still seeing quite a bit of swarming here. Southwestern edge of Taiwan. This area is definitely seeing quite a bit of swarming to the south and to the east here of the Taiwan region. Seeing quite a bit of 5s and 4s kicking up here along this trench area, and also within this region just to the south, just offshore. Very complex area of plate dynamics, a lot of squeezing and adjustment going on here. Looks like the largest quake to occur within this area so far gonna be, it looks like a 5.1, 5.4 magnitude earthquake within this area. But still, any type of movement like this, any type of swarming could contribute to maybe a telltale sign of something much larger kicking up, possibly in that area. Man, it was super duper dry up there. I'm trying to recover from the dry air. Let's see, Mariana Trench. What do we got here? A couple earthquakes kicking up here around the Mariana Islands, a 4.8 and a 4.2. One of these earthquakes earlier today looks like pretty deep into the Mariana Trench at 276 kilometers. I believe that activity kind of contributing to the movement that we're seeing here in the Taiwan region. Subduction zone pushing pressure over here around the Taiwan area. A little bit of movement out here. It looks like Savu Sea, is that correct? I don't have Missy Mimi's here right now to help me out with that. But pretty deep earthquake at 101.5, 5.0 magnitude earthquake within this area of Indonesia Islands. Java Trench looks pretty quiet tonight. It looks like over here around Fiji, things have gone awfully quiet in our deep areas, deep regions that we watch for deep earthquake activity. Tonight, though, it's pretty quiet over the last 24. 4.6 in the New Zealand area earlier this afternoon. What else we got here? South America, pretty quiet. Just a couple of earthquakes in the Peru-Chile Trench. Notice, though, these two quiet areas right here. The Japan Trench north into the Kuril-Kamchatka Trench and the Vanuatu area down through the Kermadec Trench area. All super duper quiet. So I know we're looking at a little bit of movement and forward adjustment here. But just pay attention to these quiet zones. They do kind of sneak up on us pretty quickly in terms of bada boom, bada bang type of events. North here around Mauna Kea, got a little activity at the base of the volcano. We haven't seen too much earthquake activity here in this region. We got a 3.4 and a 2.5. Let's go ahead and check out the Hawaiian Volcano Observatory through the HANS network, the hazard notification system. Want to see if they put out anything here. Doesn't look like anything's been mentioned about the Mauna Kea area, but we will watch it pretty closely. It looks pretty deep, though. These may be Pacific underneath the island type of events. I don't believe it's associated with the any volcanic activity, but you never know what's going on down there. About 16 to 13 kilometers down below this volcano. We'll definitely keep an eye on it. Also around Mauna Loa area, little small microquake movement, very shallow. Largest one at 1.8. No further major movement going on at the volcano as far as eruptive stages go. Pahala still seeing their typical swarm there since about the 1960s. That's going to be ongoing for quite a while, no doubt. West Coast activity. Of course, we did have that kind of had a little larger earthquake out here this morning in the area of Cobb, California. Now, this earthquake was struck at about 0.5 kilometers. Very shallow earthquake. Now, I'm sure quite quite a few folks know, I was going to say quite a few folks know the calpine hydrothermal operations out here inducing earthquakes. It's a whole procedure, and they're all over the place here, folks. I can zoom in on many of their facilities, and they use some beautiful raw sewage from the Bay Area. The folks that live in the Bay Area, they ship it up by the truckloads and inject it. There's a process. I haven't seen it completely. I don't know if they'll let me in there after chatting about them here on YouTube, but they use that process to inject it down into the heated areas below the surface to produce energy. And they do power a few homes over there. I can't remember the exact number, but at the same time, folks, they produce earthquakes. And these larger ones could contribute to some damage. Talking about, damage to houses. A few years ago, I believe it was Calpine, or maybe a former name, this company got sued for damages from all the earthquakes they were producing. So I know these guys don't want to see the 4-pointers pop up there. Excuse me. But what can you do when you're creating energy, right? Their process is also creating earthquakes. Let me grab a drink here real quick before I blow out my microphone with my cough. Nothing like a cold Coca-Cola, right? Oops, was that advertising? Probably, but I drink a lot of stuff: soda, tea, coffee, all sorts of stuff. Let's see. So, big earthquake activity, definitely ramping up today. We got 55 earthquakes. Notice these are getting shallower, so hopefully these guys aren't weakening out the surface up here, creating their own caldera volcano. We get it that there's definitely some heated areas. And, how many times can you inject stuff in there? It's possible they could be weakening the surface, creating a volcano itself here. Look at these earthquakes. They're very shallow, and they're much more shallower than what they should be. Let's see what the 4.0 was. See, that was, look at that, 0.5. There's a bunch more out here. So, if you guys want to know about it, I would suggest checking out Calpine Energy Solutions. Not throwing them under the bus or nothing, but there's a bunch. I was out here a couple months ago looking at all their road networks and whatnot, at least to the areas I could access. And it's a huge operation. Very complex, but also at the same time very dangerous. Very, very dangerous when you're messing around with an active volcanic field. But us humans, right? We like to experiment and see if we can't get ourselves in trouble. All right, what else we got here, guys? Northern California, pretty quiet. Southern Cal, look at that, nothing. Absolutely nothing showing up here over the last hour. Yes, microquakes here over the last 24 hours. 2.5 and above, nada. Zip, zero. So things on the mellow side. No major swarms to report around the southern segment of the San Andreas Fault. Looking across Nevada, we are seeing a little bit of uptick here. Northeast of the Warm Springs area. A couple small microquakes out there in the desert. And a little activity up here around the Yellowstone area. Let's go ahead and check out the Yellowstone seismograph stations here. Across the board, looks like a little spotty earthquake activity here around the northwest corner of the park. Looks like these lines here look like some type of interference. Ignore that stuff. Earthquakes are not going to look like that. But aside from that, most of the activity looked like it was in this morning time frame. A couple small earthquakes up here. Couple there, maybe a couple here and there. Here a quake, there a quake, everywhere a quake, somewhere like that. Nothing big showing up, but a couple small microquakes out there on the USGS map, and also the recorded seismographs there, so the raw data. What do we got up here around Lincoln, Montana? If I remember right, this area has seen a swarm. Ooh, it's been a few months now. I don't think it's been in the 30 days. Well, it looks like they've had a little bit, but I remember a pretty good substantial swarm of quakes around the Lincoln, Montana area. I'm thinking about back in February or March. Looks like that's starting to kick back up a little bit there for that area. One movement earthquake up here north of the Columbia area. Looks like a 2.4 near Roosevelt, Washington. Somewhat deep at about 17 kilometers, and a little activity outside of Mount Rainier. Eastern part of the country, fairly quiet for the most part. One earthquake on the New Madrid zone in Missouri, and another earthquake out here in North Carolina. So a little spotty activity taking place within the within that area. Alaska seeing some movement up through the Cook Inlet, up through Denali. It looks like still across the Denali fault zone, and north of Anchorage, still seeing a little bit of activity. Checking out the Cascadia tremor map tonight. Northern California once again, parts of southern Oregon it looks like as well. This is tremor again, a down dip downstream of the Cascadia subduction zone, about 35 to 45 miles per, kilometers, I should say, down dip of this area. And it's been that way for the past couple days here. Most of the activity confined to the southern segment of the Cascadia subduction zone. Let's go ahead and check out the solarham.net site. Stand by for just a second. Clicked on the wrong link. I got so many links, it's unreal. All right, looks like everything's definitely back up and running. I appreciate it. SDO. Looks like a couple developing sunspots here around the southeastern limb. 3040 is looking like it's about ready to wimp out. 3042 has been produced, and a couple other spots have been named. They're not super active in terms of producing any type of solar flares. In fact, if you look at this, only a 25% chance of a measly C flare. All other possible flares are way on the low side. No major coronal holes facing us currently, and it looks like the 3-day geomagnetic forecast, according to the solarham.net site, shows green conditions across the board. There's a coronal hole down south, little one up here that could be rotating in the view, but man, things are just on the boring side right now, folks. I don't like it. We need some ramping up here of the solar activity. All right, guys, I'm going to jump off here again. If you missed what I had to say about the Mount Shasta activity, I suggest you rewatch this video, this update, and also check out a secondary video that we'll be posting out today, and that will show you guys the canyon in detail, where the rock slides are taking place. And yeah, I mean, that's all I've got to say about it. I mean, it's soot and ash and very fine particles in the dirt that are being produced by these rock slides. Some of them are small, some of them are actually kind of big. Glacier melt runoff. It's warm up there on that mountain. Not due to volcanic activity. Of course, it's an active volcano, obviously, but 90 degrees there at the base. And the geologist guy there said it was at least 40, so at the very top. So we got snow melt obviously occurring throughout that region. All right, guys, have a good night. Again, I appreciate the help, and I hope that you guys depend on this channel for factual information. I try to get out there for this channel and for everyone, and we did it. I was kind of curious myself, wondering what was going on. You can't really tell specifically from these little, those webcams out there, the alert wildfire cams, until you go to check it out firsthand. All right, guys, have a good night. Please stay safe out there. We will chat to you a little bit later. Again, look for that secondary video. It will be provided at the end of this update video. Take care, guys.